The night my family threw me out, my father packed my clothes into a cardboard box while my sister stood in the doorway picking at her nails. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody said they were sorry. The only question in that room was, and I want you to really hear this, so who's going to cover Brittany's car payment now? That was it. That was the whole conversation. I'm Jolene Sims. I'm 36 years old. I run a coastal restoration company called Tideline. And what I'm about to tell you is the story of how my family spent 15 years treating me like a bank account, and how the night they finally emptied me out, they had absolutely no idea what I'd already built 3 hours down the coast, or whose name was on the deed. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let's get into it. I need to take you back 18 months before that night, so you understand exactly how we got here. My dad, Wayne, had a heart attack. Nothing fatal, but enough to shake the whole house. So I did what I always did in our family. I showed up. I packed a bag, drove 3 hours inland from my apartment in Mara Bay, and moved back into my childhood bedroom in Mill Haven to help. I managed their property taxes. I handled their homeowner's insurance. I covered the utilities when things got tight, which was often. I drove back and forth to the coast every single week to keep my business running, sleeping in my car some nights just to make both worlds work. For 18 months, I held that household together with my own 2 hands, because that's what you do for family, right? Here's what I didn't know. While I was driving those dark highways at midnight, keeping their house standing, my mother, Carol, had gone to the bank. She'd taken my social security number, my tax returns, and my forged signature from old documents, and she'd opened a $60,000 home equity line of credit in my name to fund my sister Brittany and her boyfriend Cody's string of terrible business ideas. My name, my credit, my future. She intercepted every bank letter that came to the house. She called it junk mail and threw it away. I had no idea. Not yet. So the night it all started, I just lost the biggest contract of my career. A client called on a Friday morning to tell me his investor had pulled out, taking a quarter of my annual revenue with him in one phone call. I wasn't destroyed. I've rebuilt houses that the ocean swallowed whole. I could rebuild my business, but I had to drive inland to tell my family in person. When I pulled up to the house, I already knew something was wrong. 2 extra cars in the driveway, my cousin Dell's truck, and the rusted Charger that belonged to Cody. In my family, an unexpected gathering means one thing. They've already made a decision about you, and you're just the last one to find out. I walked in. My sister Brittany didn't look up from her phone. So it's true, she said. You got fired. The client went under, I said. Nobody fired me. She turned straight to my mother. Mom, who's going to cover my car note now? Not, are you okay, Jolene? Not, what happened? Just a bill, addressed directly to my bank account. My mother, Carol, folded her hands the way she always does when she's about to say something that sounds reasonable but isn't. Now, Jolene, don't get worked up. You always sort things out. That was the family motto. Jolene lands on her feet, so nobody ever has to catch her. Then my dad, Wayne, walked in carrying a cardboard box. He set it on the coffee table. He wouldn't look at me. Your sister and Cody need a real room, he said quietly. They're talking about getting married. It makes sense for them to have yours. My mother smiled the smile she rehearses. Your sister needs this house more than you do, Jolene. And I stood there and watched the man who taught me how to swing a hammer start folding my work shirts into a cardboard box. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I reached into my jacket pocket and felt the cold weight of a key ring I had never told them about. You're not throwing me out, I said quietly. I'm choosing the door. I picked up the box and walked out. I drove 3 hours back to Mara Bay that same night, doing math under the highway lights. By the time I walked into my office at 10 p.m., my business partner, Renata, was still at her desk. She saw the cardboard box. She didn't say I'm sorry. She said, You finally left that house? They left me, I told her. By midnight, I was at my kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and my laptop, and I started pulling the threads. The auto pay for Mill Haven's property taxes, canceled. The homeowner's insurance I'd been quietly carrying, canceled. Brittany's car payment that I'd been secretly covering for 2 years because my mother had begged me to co-sign, gone. They threw me out at sunset. By midnight, the floor beneath them was already starting to rot. They just didn't know it yet. But there was something else. Something I'd been keeping secret for 3 years. And this is the part of the story where I need you to pay attention. My grandmother, Nana Marlene, was turning 80 the following month. She'd spent the last few years tucked into a back bedroom at my parents' house. Her whole world shrunk down to a single window. The family treated her like furniture. Present, not seen. But Nana was the only person in that house who ever truly saw me. When everyone else looked at Jolene and saw a wallet, Nana looked at me and saw a person. Decades ago, Nana and my grandfather had owned a small cottage on a strip of beach, 40 minutes up the coast from Mara Bay. During what the family called the bad years, they lost it. It was a wound Nana never fully healed from. 3 years ago, that cottage came up at a county auction. It was a complete ruin. Rotted walls, collapsed porch, foundation crumbling into the sand. I emptied my savings and bought it. Every weekend for 3 years, while my family thought I was away doing construction work, I was rebuilding Nana's house with my own hands. New foundation, new walls, new porch. Board by board, I brought it back. One afternoon, while I was prying open a sealed wall section near the old chimney, a rusted coffee tin dropped out of the plaster. Inside were old photographs of my grandparents on the porch, young and smiling, and a folded piece of paper in Nana's handwriting. A bucket list, near the top, underlined twice. Watch one more sunset from the porch of a house that's mine. I called my attorney that same week. I set up a legal life estate. The cottage would belong to Nana Marlene for the rest of her life. Unconditional, rent-free, no one could touch it. I was going to hand her the keys on her 81st birthday. I just hadn't figured out how yet. Then the universe figured it out for me. The morning after I canceled everything, a new event inquiry came through my restoration website. I occasionally rented the cottage out for private gatherings to help offset the rebuild costs. The name on the inquiry? Carol Sims. My mother was searching online for a beautiful venue to host Nana's 81st birthday party. Something to impress her church friends. Something she could take credit for. The algorithm handed her my cottage, and because of how completely the restoration had transformed it, she didn't recognize it. She had no idea she was renting her own mother's house from the daughter she'd just packed into a cardboard box. Renata stared at the screen for a long moment. She's trying to rent your house to throw a party for the woman they isolated you from. I smiled. I had Renata accept the booking under our company name, Tideline Events, keeping my name completely off the paperwork. My mother, too focused on the photos to ask a single real question, paid the deposit without hesitation. But before I could even process what was happening, my cousin Dell called, his voice tight. "Jolene, a bank letter came to the house. Your mom's been crying. Your dad is panicking. It's about a home equity line of credit, and your name is all over it." That's when I found out what my mother had done. The forged signature, the stolen credit, the $60,000 line she'd run delinquent while intercepting every warning letter the bank sent. The house they threw me out of had been standing on my name the entire time. I called my attorney. I was completely calm. Pull the loan documents, match the signatures, file the fraud dispute, the identity theft affidavit, and the police report. All of it. Today. She asked if I was sure. "File all of it," I said. The consequences arrived like a tide. On a Tuesday afternoon, a repossession truck hooked Brittany's SUV out of the driveway while she stood on the porch screaming in her bathrobe. 2 months behind, because nobody had been quietly covering the bill. The bank's fraud investigators started calling my mother with questions she couldn't answer. She called Dell, sobbing about what Jolene is doing to us. Dell simply said, "Aunt Carol, Jolene didn't take out that loan." She hung up. Sensing the well had gone dry, Cody stopped showing up. The wedding talk disappeared overnight. A week before the party, my father called me. Wayne Sims almost never calls. "That night wasn't right," he said after a long silence. "The box. I shouldn't have packed your things." "I know, Dad." "A letter came about the loan. Your mother says it has your name on it. It does. She put it there without asking me. A long, heavy silence. I didn't know, he whispered. I believe you, Dad. You never know anything in that house. You make sure of it. Before we hung up, he asked if I was still coming to Nana's party. I'll be there, I told him. More than you know. I arrived at the cottage 2 hours early. The caterers set tables on the lawn running down to the dunes. Inside, I placed the rusted coffee tin on the mantel, the old photos propped up beside it. In my pocket was the finalized life estate deed. The cars began arriving at 4 p.m. I watched from the top of the porch stairs. They wheeled Nana up the gravel path. She looked at the restored cottage, squinting, trying to place something buried deep in her memory. Then she saw the white porch rail, the dunes beyond it, the way the afternoon light fell across the water. Her hand flew to her mouth. Wayne, she whispered, reaching for my father's arm. Wayne, this is my house. This is my porch. My mother breezed up the path in her best dress, already in hostess mode, already claiming the credit. Isn't it lovely, Mama? I found it just for you. Nothing but the best. She stepped to the center of the lawn, raised her voice for the cousins and church friends. I wanted Mama's 81st to feel like family. It wasn't easy finding something this beautiful right on the water, but nothing is too good for my mother. Brittany smiled beside the cooler. My mother was glowing, completely forgetting the foreclosure, the fraud investigation, all of it. Bathing in her audience's applause, she was taking a victory lap in a house she didn't know I owned. I let her finish. I let the silence settle. Then I walked down the porch stairs onto the lawn. Mom, you didn't rent this house. The whole lawn went quiet. Her smile lost its grip. What are you talking about? I paid the deposit to Tideline. Tideline is my company, Mom. This is my house. Nobody moved. The cousins looked back and forth between us like they were watching something they couldn't stop. I bought this cottage 3 years ago at a county auction, I said slowly, letting every word land. The same house Nana and Grandpa lost during the bad years. It was a ruin. I emptied my savings. I rebuilt it with my own hands. Every weekend you thought I was away doing construction. My mother's face went from red to white. You bought our family's house and hid it. You let me look like a fool in front of everyone after everything we did for you. It's not revenge, Mom. It's just the truth. And it's the first time it's been allowed to stand in a room you couldn't control. I turned away from her. I walked to my grandmother's chair. I knelt down. Nana, I said quietly, I brought your house back. And it's not just for today. I placed the legal folder in her shaking hands. This is a life estate. You live here for the rest of your life. Rent-free, unconditional. The sunset off this porch is yours, exactly like you wrote on your list. Nana pressed the papers to her chest. She let out a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. My house, she wept. My own house. My mother lunged forward. You can't do this. We're a family. That property should belong to... She couldn't even finish the sentence. The naked greed of it embarrassed everyone standing on that lawn. And then Nana lifted her head. She looked directly at her daughter with tired, clear eyes. Carol, she said softly. Hush. The girl gave me my porch back. Let her have her say. For the first time in her life, my mother had nothing to say. My father walked past her without a word. He placed his hand firmly on Nana's shoulder. He looked me in the eye. She's right, he said. Jolene is right about all of it. The party didn't end. It just dissolved. The cousins drifted quietly toward the food. By evening, the crowd had thinned completely. Brittany left on foot when she realized Cody had driven off without her. Before she disappeared down the gravel path, she turned back and said, I didn't know about the loan, Jolene, for what it's worth. It wasn't an apology, but it was the first real sentence she'd ever spoken to me. My parents drove back to Mill Haven alone, to face a foreclosure and a criminal investigation with nobody left to carry the weight. When the last car left, I wheeled Nana to the very edge of the porch, We sat together in the quiet as the sun dropped below the waterline, casting a wide sheet of gold across the ocean. She held the deed in her lap with both hands. "First sunset that's truly mine," she said softly. "Took 80 years. Everyone from here on is yours, Nana." My business recovered by fall. 2 major contracts landed within months. Nana lived out her days at the cottage. I still drive that highway every weekend, but now it leads to someone genuinely happy to see me, instead of someone waiting to see what I can cover. People still ask if I feel guilty. Here's what I tell them, and I want you to really hear this, because I think someone watching needs it today. Family is not a debt you carry forever. It's a door, and I'm done holding it open for people who only knock when they want something. The ones who knock because they love you, you'll always let them in. The rest can learn to carry their own roof. I spent 15 years being the wall in that family. Turns out, I make a much better porch. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, let it be this. Setting a boundary isn't slamming a door on the people you love. It's finally deciding who deserves a key. If this story reminded you that your kindness is not a debt you owe forever, share it with someone who needs that reminder today. Drop a comment below, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.